Get settled in a comfortable position, whatever position that is that's comfortable for you. And you can either gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. And take a couple of really deep breaths. And exhaling, just letting go of the day, just settling in right where you are, letting go of all the thoughts, just being with this group right here. Feeling yourself supported in the chair or in the cushion. Feeling your body just sitting, letting go of any tension from the day, letting that roll off. Maybe you can envision that as just melting off of you. With every exhale, just letting that go. Letting your shoulders drop and your belly is soft. Your arms are heavy. And noticing as your body relaxes, sometimes we get a sense of feeling heavier in our seat. You may feel we're sinking down a little bit more in our cushion. So staying with the movement of our body, noticing the lungs expanding and contracting, the body moving as we breathe. And we follow that breath all the way in from the beginning, from the tip of our nose, noticing how our body expands again and contracts as we exhale, following the entire breath in and the entire breath out. And checking in with your body, just notice the difference between now when you're relaxed for a few moments compared to the time that we began. Probably a little more relaxed now. Body probably feels a little heavier. Your mind is probably settling. But as the thoughts do come in, you just come back to the breath and the body, anchoring in that breath movement, focusing on the inhale and the exhale and the pause in between. Oh, when you're ready, just joining us back here in our group. Now, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're back. Good to see you again. So one of the things I was talking about a few weeks ago is making some positive changes in our mindset. And Carol Dweck, in her book that's called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, she says, in a fixed mindset, people believe their basic qualities, like their intelligence or talent, are simply fixed traits. They spend their time documenting their intelligence or talent instead of developing them. However, in a growth mind state, it's based on the belief that your basic qualities are the things you can cultivate through your efforts. And I think that's what we try to do here is put some effort into making our lives better by practicing mindfulness. And this practice can help us identify when we get stuck in that fixed mindset and how we can step into a more growth mindset. Because we're mindful, we're aware of more of our actions now and more of our thoughts, we can choose whether we want to change that. Do we want to get stuck in the same old mindset, or would it benefit us to step into a more of a growth mindset? How can I be even happier? How can I let go of those things that are weighing me down? It creates this sense of expansion in us when we open up to that. We're not just stuck in our little space. We're more open to live our lives in a more free fashion and not so scared. You know, sometimes new things are really scary. And when we open up to a growth mindset, we're allowing change to happen to us. And one of the things I hear a lot in the halls of Buddhism is they talk about dukkha and they say it's suffering, which it is, but the translation of suffering doesn't really cover it. It's more of a combination of dissatisfaction and disappointment. And a lot of that is blanketed with fear. So I think it's our fixed mindset, our fear mindset that keeps us there. And we can't really find our satisfaction in life if we're not willing to step out of our comfort zone a little bit and to learn something new. The way that the Four Noble Truths are designed, the first step is to say that our lives are really pervaded by suffering, both the obvious suffering and some of the subtle stuff underneath too. And there's this identifiable cause of our suffering. We usually know what it is. We can name it. So it can be identified. And because we know its cause, we can free ourselves from that suffering because we can make a change. And the change that we follow is the specific path of the Eightfold Path. So, and when we do this practice, we find that we're suffering less and less and less. And when the Buddha taught about the Eightfold Path, he was teaching about meditation and wisdom and ethical living. So once we really start applying that to our life, it becomes pretty simple and pretty easy to just notice what's happening, accept what our mind is doing, and decide whether we want to change that or not. So we identify the cause of the unhappiness or the displeasure, and we consciously put the effort in to make changes. And Sharon Salzberg says, think of the last time you were lost in fear, the last time you were harshly unforgiving of yourself, The last time you felt trapped. The last time a craving was so strong that all reason and common sense fled. The last time any sense of potential change collapsed and you fell into hopelessness. Those are times we experience limited options, the blunting of our creativity, a feeling of disconnection, the dimming of our vision of what is possible. And she says that so well because we do that to ourselves. We stay in those trapped states sometimes because we don't really know how to do something different. It's a habit a lot of times to just stay in the same cycle of suffering because we're familiar with it. But it is the source of those limiting beliefs, right, that kind of keep us from going forward. Our old stories, our negative comments about ourselves, that are usually stemming from parents or peers or anyone else who we put faith in. So it's kind of hard to believe in yourself when you buy into that stuff. So we really want to develop this mindfulness so we can be aware of when we're doing that, when we're falling into those stuck places. We tend to accept our preconceptions and our judgments and our hasty conclusions and our anxieties about the world, um, rather than question those. We can look at those and think, I don't like that. And ask, well, why don't I like that? Why do I just jump into that conclusion? Why does that person rub me wrong? Why does that reaction not sit well with me? Those are really good questions to ask yourself because there's so many layers underneath that of where that came from and why we bought into it. And uncovering those things, there's a lightness that happens. There's a sense of freedom that comes because now we have choices of whether we want to continue that way of thinking or if we want to make some changes to open up to something different. Sharon talks about this story that she's walking in India and she's walking down a path and she sees something in the path and it looks like a snake. So she gets really fearful because there's a lot of poisonous snakes in India. And so she's really cautious and she walks slowly up to this thing and realizes it's a coil of rope. So her imagination imagined, oh, it's a snake, you need to be careful, when it really wasn't. So she jumped to that conclusion. Well, of course, we're going to jump to certain conclusions to keep ourselves safe. But it's a really good example of how our mind goes into that catastrophizing place first to keep us safe. And so she says she was learning a lot from that and really kind of had that in the back of her mind. And she's walking toward a temple. And she sees a piece of green yarn on the steps. And so she starts to walk toward this temple, and all these native people come running at her and stop her. And they're pointing, and she realizes it's not a piece of green yarn, it's a snake. So we have we have that in us for a reason. So yeah, look at what's happening in our mind and decide maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But I think the important part is the question. Can we question what we assume to be correct? And that fear of the unknown that we run into a lot is one of the strongest ways we get stuck because what if it doesn't work? What if I'm not happy? What if I put what if I invest in this and I'm not going to get out of it what I want? So sometimes we just don't do it. And then we miss opportunities or we miss simple opportunities like, oh, it could have been fun, yet I didn't go do that because I was afraid. So this learning about ourselves and our habits and why we act the way we do is something to really take a look at. Um, this expansion in our learning to look at our lives differently, we do need to look for the snakes on the path, but we don't need to assume that they're all poisonous. We could be cautious, but we don't need to let that run our life. So she says one practice in the step toward this is humility. It's just a gentle acceptance of reality. You come down from blaming others, you come down from blaming yourself. And it's just a state where you just drop all of this stuff that doesn't matter, all the self-attack, all the self-blame, all the self-criticism. And we just look at the truth of the situation. We just look at what's really true. And what is our mind making up? What is our mind telling us? And another way to look at it, another step, I should say, to move past limited beliefs is to look at what helps you, what supports you, what makes you feel more comfortable on this new road. One thing you can just ask yourself, are the stories I'm telling myself supporting me, or are they getting in my way? Are they tearing me down? And are the people that I have in my life, are they encouraging me? Are they supporting my growth? Or are they getting in my way? Are they keeping me tamped down? So those are choices, and sometimes they're really hard choices because we love most of the people in our life, but we don't necessarily need to take their word for things. We can kind of let things go, let what they say go. It doesn't really matter. If they don't support you or you don't feel supported by them, is there something you can say? Can you ask them? Can you tell them what you need? Can you trust that they will try to listen and at least give an effort to help you out with some support? So opening to these new ideas can be really scary because it's new, but that's how we grow. And that growth creates happiness. We're more secure in our life when we grow. We're happier when we're more secure. So they do that. Those two things do support each other. And the only way to really get there is to take those steps. Just take a step in that direction. And you can move as quickly or slowly as you want. But I think we're all wanting more happiness, and we get caught in watching the news. We get caught in the stories that we tell ourselves about what's happening in the world. And really, we have no control over it. We have no control over anything other than ourselves. So people will say, well, what if the world blows up tomorrow? Why would I bother? And I'm like, well, what if it doesn't? You know, what if we're fine? You're going to miss an opportunity to be happy. To me, it just doesn't make any sense to keep yourself back because of fear. And how can you ever know if something is going to bring you joy if you don't open up to the possibility of it? There's another quote here by Sharon that I like. She says, expansiveness helps broaden our perspective so we can think more flexibly and with a more open mind. We become better able to focus on the big picture and not feel so discouraged by the constant array of ups and downs we experience every day. When faced with adversity, we can generate more solutions. Expansiveness invites experimentation and imagination. We're more willing to pour ourselves fully into life's pursuits. It is the freedom of letting down the burden that we've been carrying for so long. It leaves room for our fundamentally loving hearts to uncoil and lead us onward. That's very well said. She's very clear. Let's not get in our own way. Let's let things be as they really are Let's question the thoughts that come into our head and see if there's another way that we can look at things. Let people be who they are. Let them make their mistakes. It's their journey. Sometimes it's hard to let go. If you've had a relationship with someone, a friendship, and they're just not on the same page as you anymore, you have to let them have that. You have to let them have that journey because they're not going to learn how to be free unless they take the steps to do that. So, and that's really difficult sometimes, but it's really important. It's really important for you. So those are some of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. Just to mention, life gets pretty sticky sometimes. And I try really hard to practice just noticing when I'm telling myself something that's not very nice or very positive, or I know is really fear-based, because I have absolutely no control over anything other than what I think. And even then, I don't really have a whole lot of control because the thoughts keep coming back into my head. And I can only look at them for so long. But I do laugh when I see an old pattern come up. And I haven't done it for a long time, and all of a sudden there it is. And I laugh and think, wow, I've been working on this a long time, and habits are still coming up and waking me up. So I know how difficult it can be. One more quote before we do our next meditation. And Sharon Salzberg was talking about what serves us. And she says, there's no commodity we can take with us. There's only our lives, whether we live them wisely or whether we live them in ignorance. And this is everything. When you open wide, the world is a good place. If you go deeper and deeper into your own heart, you'll be living in a world with less fear, less isolation, and less loneliness. So when you're wide open, the world is a good place. So that's a good place to go. We're just going to open to what our thoughts are and are they true? Are they true? And can I make some changes? Let's move forward with our meditation unless anyone has a comment or a question on any of that. Okay. So yeah, again, we'll get comfortable in whatever position that is. Taking a few deep breaths and pulling your attention inward. Letting your body settle. And if your mind has drifted into some thought, just reel it on in back here with this group. Staying with the breath moving in and out of the lungs. Noticing the movement of the body as you breathe. as you feel your body settle in, feeling supported, comfortable, relaxed, you might say something to yourself like, I open my lungs to fresh air as I breathe in, practicing that opening wide. Breathing in, I open to that fresh air. And breathing out, I release the stale air. And the stale air no longer serves us, so we want to let that go. And we want to open up. So again, breathing in, I open to fresh air, fresh ideas, opening to looking at life differently. And exhaling, releasing what no longer serves. And then breathing in, I open to the idea of letting the old patterns go. And breathing out, I allow myself to accept letting go of those old patterns. And breathing in, I open to new things to feed my spirit. And breathing out, I let go of what no longer serves. And breathing in, I open to recognize my heart's desires. And breathing out, I release old patterns. I open to the idea of saying yes to what excites me, what makes me happy. And I'm open to exploring throughout the days what changes would make me happier. What can I let go of? What language can I use with myself that's positive and supportive? And allow myself to look at what's keeping me stuck. What are my unhealthy old patterns? What kind of fixed mind states do I have that I can let go of? And I can allow myself to step into a growth mind state, opening wide to every possibility. May I be free from fear that keeps me stuck. May I be free from the fear that keeps me stuck.